Okay, we're going live. Hello, everybody. Hi. Good afternoon to everybody. This is Shuvo here from Successzante. Yet another real talk with Shuvo. Today we have a very interesting speaker, a good friend, and I've known him for more than a year, and he has contributed a lot in my life. And when it comes to digital, he's the master at it. And we will be seeing him soon. So we will be starting another 3 minutes. So within 3 minutes we'll start. Till then, be around. I'll see you in 3 minutes. Yes, some of our friends have joined the talk already. So let's start, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, today we have a very special guest, Mr. Imran Bilkasim. Imran,
Hey,
how are you doing?
All good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And then we are very excited about this event. So before I start, like introduce myself, I'm the CEO of Successzante, and we are the world-class training provider. So some of the speakers we work with is Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Robert Kiyosaki. But this is a time of uncertainty, so we wanted to bring in certainty among the community. So we thought how to do it. So then we thought that we will bring in individuals who are specialized in their area and share their thoughts with you and tell you, actually, this is not the end of the day. This is actually the beginning of new opportunity, new possibilities, right? And I know when it comes to new possibilities and new innovation, this is the man to talk to, and especially in the digital space, one of the transformation is happening. Imran is quite familiar and responsible for some of those transformation. So that's why we thought we'll invite him. But apart from that, he's a good friend as well, and he has contributed a lot in my personal life to help me to develop myself and work-wise as well, and personal life as well. And that's why I thought, since he's such a giver, so we wanted to bring him and share his thoughts when it comes to digital transformation, what's happening at the moment, and what is the future, right? So bit of background about Imran. So Imran, he has a wealth of experience, 21 years of experience in digital space. And currently he is the country manager for Temenos for Sri Lanka and Maldives, right? Apart from that, a brilliant human being, a person who loves to create bigger impact. And it totally matches our philosophy. Our philosophy is also to making an impact. And whereby Imran also believes in making an impact in the digital space. And he has done quite a number of work when it comes to impacting digital space positively. I heard him speaking many times earlier. And then today, Imran, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And
thank you, sir.
I would like to start, with a quotation. It says, "Revolutions brings this disruption, and disruption brings opportunity." Right. So we are actually currently, if you really look at it out there, there is a lot of revolution happening. There's a forced digital usage happening, right? Whether we like it or not, right? So before even going there, I would like to ask you, digital disruption, what does that mean? We have heard this word digital disruption, but Imran, can you please break it down to us in a very simple word? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's for me a very overused word, Shuvo, and lots of people have different meanings about it. And I'll probably break it down by saying that digital disruption is a transformation process that is caused by emerging digital technologies and business models. And these technologies and business models can fundamentally change the way existing products and services are delivered in the industry. So if you take a simple example, it is not as if people in Sri Lanka did not commute in cabs and taxis before PickMe appeared. People still did. However, PickMe did change our behavior and the thought process towards commuting. We no longer need to stop random taxis on the road. We know exactly how much we will be charged, and we have a trace of the route and approximately how much we'll pay for it and how long it will take to reach our destination. Despite some recent incidents on safety, you still prefer this way of commuting than reverting to the old way. We also have a choice of vehicles we can order based on our needs. Suddenly an industry, as we knew, it was disrupted. Question for you guys is, when was the last time you ordered a 688 to commute from home to office? That's disruption for you. Similarly, it's not as if we did not order food from restaurants and had it delivered to our home before Uber Eats arrived. However, the manner in which we do that now is very different. The choices are more, and there is an element of convenience we're experiencing right now. Suddenly, the whole food delivery industry was disrupted by a simple piece of technology that appeared in our phones. A question I would encourage to ask yourself is, what kind of disruption can you create in your own industries before a completely unrelated industry does it for you? That's probably how I would just break down the meaning of digital disruption.
So of course, disruption, the word sounds very negative, but then again, when you break it
It's
down,
very,
yeah.
it is positive. I think it's forcing companies to look at new or innovative ways of delivering products and services, exploring new business models, and it's actually a positive thing if you take it in the right context.
Right. Okay, great. So currently, if you look at in the Sri Lankan context, what are the digital disruption is happening at this point?
A lot of them actually. I think the current pandemic has forced us to change our behavior due to lockdown and requirements around social distancing. We would think twice, so ideally we should, before we enter crowded places. And this has given rise to new emerging technologies as well as existing technologies which are being used more now. So if you take e-commerce, there's certainly an increase in online sales where people have been forced to order their essentials online and have it delivered to their home. Connected to e-commerce is also the whole supply chain process. Lots of companies are now evaluating ways of reducing people dependencies or paper dependencies in their supply chain process and driving a lot of automation in that whole process. Telehealth is emerging fast in Sri Lanka as an alternative to visiting doctors in hospitals. I have observed, pre-crisis time, that a larger portion of patients who visit the general hospital on weekday mornings are also for routine clinics and checkups, which are often, and they often continue the same medicine. So I was thinking, what if this segment can be served using a platform like ODoc? It completely eliminates the need for travel, in some case, long distance travel, and gather in densely populated places. So if we can do this now, why not in a post-COVID period as well? There's certainly been a rise in digital payments or contactless payments, shifts in the way people bank, given that they could not go into a branch due to lockdown. Digital was a key channel that people used to conduct their banking activities as well. Remote work was certainly a big hit. There was already some element of remote working happening, especially in tech companies or startups, but the remote work concept has now got generalized into many organizations as well. The adoption of distance learning has certainly increased. We've seen schools conducting or teaching subjects using technologies like Zoom and Microsoft Teams or e-learning platforms. Apart from that, globally, we have seen robotics and drones, starting to take main stage. China is about to start its own digital currency. It's already trialing this in 4 different cities in China. 3D printing has emerged once again as a strong force globally. There is also lots of review in policies. So for an example, if people are forced to work from home, what kind of policies do you adopt in an organization when you have a certain portion of the organization working from home? I think 5G technology is going to take off. Extremely well, given that there will be more usage of technology and digital in a post-COVID era. So I'll probably say there are 10 mega trends, like I said. E-commerce is certainly one. Supply chain optimization using digital, certainly another. Telehealth, digital payments, digital banking, remote work as a concept, distance learning, the whole advent of drones and robots, digital currencies connected to digital payments once again, as well as 3D printing. I'll probably say most of it is also happening in Sri Lanka, which is great to see. We see government using a lot of technology to manage the crisis situation, which is also great to see. Sure.
Great, brilliant. Yeah, I also came across one of my friends. They actually created a drone for one of the government hospitals, and the drone is the one who's managing the patient in the sense, of course, with the help of doctor, and they're doing taking the reports and things around. I mean, and this is a Sri Lankan innovation. But the Sri Lankan company has done it, and it's quite encouraging to see. Yes, my kids are going to school online right now. You're correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in conversation with a very good friend of ours, Imran bin Qasim. So we are talking about how digital transformation or digital disruption is happening in Sri Lanka. So when it comes to international context, Imran, what's happening there? What's happening internationally?
Yeah, I think lots of people are betting on technology. Just like Sri Lanka, I think most of the technologies I spoke about Sri Lanka is already mainstream in some of these other countries. Apart from that, I think drones, 3D printing, Biggest news I've heard in the recent past is obviously China launching its digital currency and already starting to trial this out in 4 different cities in China. That's going to have an interesting impact on the US dollar as well. So I think a lot of people will look at automation. People will look at existing processes which are physical location dependent as well as physical person dependent, and look at ways and means of reducing that dependency through automation and technology. I think that's probably what's going to take center stage in a post-COVID era.
Great. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want, you can go ahead and ask question as well. And we can pick the question and ask our specialist over here, Imran, right? So, okay, yeah, we have a question. So Tirina Bandara, he's asking, are you happy about the acceptance level of digital transformation by the laggers community in Sri Lanka?
There's always room for improvement, let me put it that way. But certainly, I think, sometimes you need a joke to understand the harsh reality. So there's always this joke that is being passed around. Who drove digital transformation in your organization? Is it the CEO, or is it the CIO, or is it COVID-19? And the answer has been COVID-19. I think there is still a lot of room for improvement. And digital transformation is not something you can just enable quickly. It's linked to your business strategy. But given this situation has forced us to, look at digital as a key lever, the progress I've seen, at least in the last few weeks post-lockdown, has been very encouraging. And I think this trend will certainly continue, because I can't think of a different way of handling the current situation than having digital or technology as center stage in everything that you do.
Great. So so with that, we'd like to move on to, we work with a lot of SMEs, right? So so when you look at it, now there is a quotation. It says, if you are trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all ingredients in the right portion, right? So that's what it says. So when it comes to SMEs, so how this digital transformation will help them when it comes to SMEs? Because corporates they can probably pay and get the technology, but how does?
Yeah, I think technology has certainly become a lot more affordable even for SMEs right now. Take for an example, the tool we are using today, Facebook Live or Zoom. It's not very expensive. I think as we've moved along, technology has become a lot more affordable. What's happening is that because most of this technology is available as a service offering, it's no longer the companies with deep pockets can afford technology. I think companies of all sizes can afford technology that works for them. The whole pandemic, no doubt, has presented many challenges to SMEs, and probably the SMEs are the worst affected. I can clearly see that most of the SMEs are shifting their focus around, building their brand, business improvement, and digitalization to the urgent steps needed to ensure business continuity and resilience. And I can understand that, and that's probably the need of the hour. Whilst this is understandable, the opportunity now is not only to continue to focus on business continuity. I think it's important that SMEs or organizations in general, in parallel, work on what the future business mode looks like to ensure that they remain competitive on the other side of COVID-19. Take for an example, during the early stage of the lockdown, we really didn't care what brand or what company we were ordering food from. We would just order from anyone who has a post about a certain essential package. And I don't think the brand or the company or the reputation or the kind of money they have in their bank accounts really mattered. It's about being able to get something on demand delivered to your home. So I think fundamentals have certainly shifted, and it's important that you look at what does your business model look like in a post-COVID era. The crisis has also made disruption very real, and if you don't think of digital right now, there's never a time or a place that you'll think of digital. What it has also done is it has put a spotlight on the gaps that we've had as companies in our operations and our technical investments. The way I see it is that companies who are more digital enabled and driving a lot of automation with less dependency on a physical place or operation or people being physically present are managing this whole thing better than companies who didn't. It's important that businesses do start thinking more strategically about technology and digital capabilities and investing in uplifting them, because today digital and technology has now proven beyond doubt it's no longer nice to have, it's an absolute necessity. I think SMEs can think of a few ways of doing this. These changes need strategic direction and it needs to have a long-lasting impact. I think some changes I could potentially think of for SMEs would be adoption of cloud services. Adoption of cloud services obviously removes dependencies of physical data centers. You have a secure platform, you can access it from anywhere. Even if there is a lockdown or if there is curfew, you could still get your work done. Also, this whole concept around anything as a service, buying as a service is no longer limited to just technology services. It can easily extend to activities or processes or functions that can be provided as a service. So the first thing that you could potentially do is look at what parts of your organization are critical for you to operate and which parts qualify to outsource or buy as a service. For an example, if you have a design department, you need to have a design department, or can you purchase design as a service? Can you purchase accounting as a service? Can you purchase HR as a service? These are the decisions that SMEs would need to make now. Third is to look at rapid automation. I think it's well known that small and medium businesses tend to rely a lot on manual processors and tasks. Automating repeatable tasks can provide significant benefits to an SME. And it's not so difficult to do today, given the kind of technology we have. Last but not least, look at agile operating models. The operating models that will enable sustainable organizations in the future. The ones that can accommodate for changes in services, products, channels, their supply chain, the geographies and locations. I think SMEs will need to now start to increasingly look at these aspects in order to be future ready from another pandemic or the effects of this current pandemic or anything that might come in the future, which is obviously which is not foreseen.
Great, thank you very much. That was very detailed. Now, okay, we have a question from Hasini Gunasekara. So she's saying that now this present digitization, okay, it's a forced digitization. Now, when the country goes back to the normal situation, will this hype will die down, or it will continue as a digital transformation?
It's a question that is most often asked by many, Shuvo. I think some of these behaviors will obviously continue. I think there was a recent study that I saw. There'll be a 55% drop of people who will actually go to supermarkets even during a post-COVID era. Still, so the e-commerce businesses will still thrive. People have now got used to certain ways of living. I think once those habits are formed, it's difficult to go away. At least it will be there for a long time. I think it's also important for organizations to adapt to those changes, perhaps even create opportunities for changes in consumer behavior and drive their products and services. It's probably how I see it.
So you're saying that it's going to continue, it looks like.
It's probably going to continue. It's probably going to continue, and I'll talk why in a bit.
Sure. Another question. Okay, Rimaz is asking, how do you think the FMCG companies will approach this with their brick and mortar retail outlet island-wide? So how that FMCG space would be affected, or what would be the transformation there you're looking at?
Yeah. So the brick and mortar outlets was of little use, wasn't it? It was all great to have the nice buildings and everything, but it mattered very little during this period. I think most of these companies will start looking at technology as a key lever in the way they serve. E-commerce, increase customer experience platforms in the way they serve customers is probably going to emerge. The brick and mortar structure will obviously continue. I don't think it's going to go away for a long time, but at least there'll be increased belief and adoption of technology to serve customer needs. And I think the consumers will also be willing to and will also probably prefer companies or retail brands who actually offer such services in a post-COVID era.
Okay, great. Okay, Leon seems to be a bit serious about his question. Okay, he is asking, in the time like this, a service like PayPal is very important for Sri Lankans to earn money and do business, right? Why do you think no one is looking at this seriously?
Is it to earn money through foreign remittances? Is that the question?
No, it's not clear what he didn't clarify that. But he said
Yeah,
that this service is not available. Why is that? Why we are not having that?
Well, there has been many conversations about PayPal. I think there were also a few representatives from PayPal who visited Sri Lanka, and I felt that they didn't want to invest and come into Sri Lanka because they felt Sri Lanka was small. I think that's the last I heard. I don't know whether there was anything beyond that. But interestingly, what's also happened is that there's been a lot of local companies of interest who built interesting payment platforms which provide PayPal-like services. So one such company I can proudly talk about and recommend is this company called Pay Here, owned by a renowned entrepreneur called Danica, who does almost like PayPal, but it's Sri Lankan born, Sri Lankan tech, which is essentially doing what PayPal does. So we've got similar technology like PayPal, and I think what's going to probably happen is in the future we'll see a lot more innovation in that space in Sri Lanka. I don't know whether it'll be PayPal coming and doing it, but I think I've got a lot more faith in our local companies and our local fintech ecosystem actually doing that to enable PayPal-like systems to solve the problem that Leon just brought up.
Okay, so they're providing the service. What's the name of the company?
It's a company called Pay Here.
Pay Here. Okay, great. Brilliant. So that's a Sri Lankan born company. Okay. Kamir Nizamdeen. So he's saying that how would you recommend that we sustain the current digital wave and not lose the momentum? So it's the same question of Hasini, but in a different way. How do we not lose that? Momentum is creating, how do we continue with that?
I think it works two ways. I think firstly, the organizations also need to deliver continuous digital experiences. Today, if you take e-commerce, I think it's not merely, logging into a site and, ordering the same thing that you do every day and getting it delivered. That's like a norm now, at least in the last 4 to 6 weeks. I think the question is, what can these companies do to really personalize experience? So for an example, if I'm a consumer in a certain e-commerce site and I order the same things most days, there has to be experience delivered to me where even whilst I log in, there's a prompt that says, good afternoon, sir, is this something that you'd like to order today, without me having to go through that whole ordering process over and over again. The use of chatbots, is another example of how most of our questions can be answered instantly. So I think organizations also need to play this smart. I think organizations have learned today that digital is important. I think it saves time and effort. It also provides different kinds of experience. So there is a role that the organizations need to play in terms of keeping the digital experience relevant to consumers in a post-COVID. The other bit is, we've been used to a certain way of doing things. At least we've been forced to do certain things in a certain way. Would that habit go away immediately? Habits die hard. And I don't think the habits that we've inherited in the last few weeks would die hard. It will probably get more. And if there is fuel being served to us, to enhance our habits by organizations through innovative experiences, chances are that it will continue. Certain habits might die down. Certain habits might actually continue. And that's probably how I see it. I'll maybe take a simple example. If you remember World War II, there was a huge impact of women's participation in the workforce post World War II. Why? Because a large share of working population was deployed in the war effort. Women were encouraged to fill job roles. And even after the war, the effects of these shifts persisted, where there were more female workforce participation. Then if you look at the 9/11 attack, it shaped consumer behavior in a different way. There was a need for more tighter security in terms of screening and surveillance, and people willingly participated, and that was not the case before that. But what also happened was, just after 9/11, the amount of travel that happened globally significantly reduced, and people looked at other alternative adventures than travel because of security. But within 15 months, all this effect normalized. So, it all depends on how our habits are formed, how our social norms are formed, and also the increasing experiences that organization provide so that we stay relevant. I'll probably look at it that way.
Yeah, great. So what you're saying, so it will, actually it's true. It takes 21 days to create a habit. So we have been at this situation more than 21 days. So obviously we are seeing the positive side of it. And I believe there will be definitely a positive impact. I mean, just to add to that, me and Hasini, my wife, we were talking that, there are supermarkets who has this card, right? Digital card. So, so then you swipe it and then and they know our buying pattern because of that. So we were thinking, why not the supermarkets? By looking at our buying pattern, they can push that advertisement to the consumers. Okay, this is what you require, and these are the packages we have. We were just having a casual conversation, and it actually makes sense right now after talking to you. Now,
yeah, and Shuvo, if you and that's a great example, right? To understand, what say Shuvo and Hasini really shops for is fundamentally a basic need today that any company should understand. Because if you've been a customer to them for a long time, that's a given. You should understand, what Hasini and Shuvo usually shop for, and that's an element of data. I think most organizations in Sri Lanka, got caught out as well. I think most spoke about data, the importance of data. We spoke about a data-driven culture. Data is a new fuel, all the possible buzzwords that I could think of. But the question was how many actually did data? Because if a lot did data, you would not have that problem at all.
Exactly. So for me, of course, I didn't use it. Hasini used the card, so they will know her buying patterns. Yeah. So, okay, I have a question from a logistics point of view. Jeevan Hettigamage, he's asking, what will be the future of logistics after COVID-19 pandemic? And what kind of technologies will take place to face this kind of situation in the future? So what would be the transformation there? What kind of new technologies you're looking at?
So I know Jeevan pretty well, and I think Jeevan should know logistics more than me, but here's my answer on that. I think logistics has always been a very people, process-driven, at times physical, location-dependent business. I think that's going to change. So for an example, if you have people working from home in a logistics company, how can you have work still happening at work? So how can work still continue at work while you're at home? I think the best answer for that is, robots or robotic process automation kind of solutions will help us. So I also represent a logistics company, and we do exactly this. We do exactly this today. So lots of process automation kind of initiatives will be initiated to ensure that you reduce the dependency of people and physical location in your operation. The second is you'll probably want to build systems where it gives you a lot more visibility across the entire supply chain. So if you have a lot more visibility across the supply chain, your ability to decide in terms of driving changes in the supply chain is going to increase. I think two probably new trends. I wouldn't say new trends. People have already embarked on such journeys. I think what will happen now is that some of these journeys that people have embarked on, organizations have embarked now, will probably get accelerated.
Great. Okay. I also know Jeevan very well. So thank you, Jeevan, for that question. And okay, I like this another question is from Rimaj. Rimaj is saying that what kind of skill set should we look at developing to make sure stay on the top of the game of digitization? I love this question. What kind of skill set?
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been debating about skill sets even last night with a friend of mine over Facebook, precisely on this topic of building skill sets. I think if you look at our education system, Children are taught to cram or study by heart and pass exams. I don't know whether that's really building skills anymore. I think fundamentally our education system need to really change, where we teach people on skills or kids on skills as opposed to teaching them to pass an exam. So I think it needs to start there, because today we are talking about these 10 technologies or 10 or 12 technologies that I spoke of, which requires a certain set of skill sets to adopt. Tomorrow we don't even know what skill sets we'll need to adopt the kind of technology that will come in the future. So the question is, how do we really change the whole education system to teach kids the skill sets for jobs that they don't even know that will exist in the future? I think it will probably start there. On this particular question, I think it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of reading. So for an example, in a company that I represent, which is logistics, the only way I learned logistics is by talking to friends in logistics, talking to technology companies in logistics to understand what kind of skills do I need to build to stay relevant in my organization in understanding logistics. So that's probably one way of doing it. Second is probably look at what have other companies done in your own domain. That's probably another starting point in terms of understanding skills in terms of driving digital. The third bit is look at a problem in your organization. Forget all the buzzwords around digital transformation, digital disruption. Forget all these buzzwords. Look at a problem that you're facing in your organization. Check how can technology or digital help solve that, and that's your discovery to digital transformation.
Great. Thank you very much for that reply. Actually, Jim Rohn said that formal education will make you a living and self-education will make you a fortune. Yeah. So if you look at it, it's actually going to be self-education mostly. You face a challenge and then you learn the skill and you overcome it, right? So that
absolutely,
absolutely. That's been the training. Okay, great. Okay, one question. Okay, how does the post-COVID digital era looks like? How does it look like?
Yeah, so
there'll be a question from our side.
Yeah. So the technologies that I spoke about earlier is obviously going to be mainstream. I think teleworking remote working will certainly continue for some time. I'd love to see telehealth taking off in Sri Lanka. I think that's an amazing piece of technology that the guys at ODOC has built. I think if you look at all of that, the amount of benefit to society in general is going to be absolutely massive. I've seen some pictures on Facebook about clear blue skies as a result of, or as a lack of environmental pollution. So imagine the more use of telehealth to teleworking to digital technologies, what kind of impact it will have in our environment. E-commerce will certainly grow. Like I said, I think e-commerce will certainly grow beyond. I think it's important for e-commerce companies to now think of what are these new experiences they can provide for consumers of their platforms. Digital payments is probably going to take off, or contactless payments is going to take off. I'm keenly watching the development of the Chinese currency or the new launch of the Chinese digital currency and how that takes off and the impact of dollar payments. Certainly, I know Sri Lanka is also thinking along those lines at some point to see whether we could launch our own digital currency as well. Banking, tech in bank is probably going to be center stage. People are, at least they've formed a habit of not having to even go to a bank now to actually do a deposit to another person's account. Organizations need to look at digital as a key enabler in everything they do. Surprisingly, I found out that a lot of the companies have not even signed up for internet or SIP-based transfers from a company to another company around individual. Such companies now need to do away from check-based payments to at least digital payments. Remote work, like I said, is going to be key. I think distance learning as well. But what is also important is to also look at, it's not purely the technology on its own. It's also to understand, how attitudes and behaviors are shaped by a deep societal crisis like COVID. Major disruptions can like this shifts, our attitudes, our beliefs. which then forms new behaviors. And the two examples I gave you around around World War II, as well as a 9/11 attack, are some examples of that. One more example is the 2003 SARS attack, which came in China, which was originated in China. And that actually paved the way for the rise of e-commerce giants like Alibaba and other giants. So there is obviously a lot of shift in attitudes, which is forming new behavior that will obviously influence our consumption pattern. I'll take a very simple example. If you take consumers, or if you take us as the end users, we're probably a lot more used to staying at home now, so you probably want to stay more home. And also because at least for the next 6 to 9 months, we'll probably want to spend more time from home. One, for security reasons, and also because we formed a habit of staying more home. Now, if you stay home, if you want to stay more home, if you take a simple example of eating at home, you will probably see a rise of takeaway or food delivery businesses. There'll be increased home cooking, and there'll be a decrease in people eating out. Because of you wanting to have a lot more takeaway, there'll be, like I said, there'll be more delivery services, and more delivery services will now lead to wanting to have more e-payments. So how can you really essentially, if you want to order takeout in the future, because you're staying more at home, you order services and you pay for it, and there is absolutely no cash involved in this. If you take another example of working from home, so you want to stay at home more and you want to also work from home, there's going to be a rise in home office spaces. You'll probably convert your room into an office space. You'll probably want to do a lot of refurbishment, bring in a lot more fancy equipment. This will result in the need for traditional office spaces going down, and therefore the need and the demand for commercial real estate. If you're gonna refurbish your room and buy more equipment, that's going to increase the consumption of paint to carpentry to desks to printers. So it's an interesting shift. And look at the kind of businesses that are going to rise here. Suddenly, because of the shifts in our own attitude and behavior, which is influencing our new consumption patterns, that's going to give rise to some interesting lines of businesses, which may not have been so relevant in the past.
So we're in training and development. So as it's point, and we work with Success Resource, where they're the world's largest training development organization. So they're actually moving towards online training right now, and we are actually working with them, and we see there is quite a big shift in that space, and because of that, we are thinking of not having an office at this point. So
I'm right now, looking at a few institutions. I'm looking at we pay about 1.2 million, 1.23 million rent across multiple offices. Can we look at a flexible working style? Also, as because it's demanded by all the social distancing norms, can we just shut down one physical office, merge everyone? So a 50-seat office today can potentially hold 80 to 100 people, based on rotational policy of working from home, and completely get rid of a certain an office, and that's the kind of thinking we'll have. I think gone are the days where people will start thinking, if I want to expand my workforce from 50 to 100, how much more office space do we need? I think that problem is probably not going to be too relevant, at least in the short term.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So that brings to our next question. So we have a very common friend, Imran, Farhad Hossein. So he asked a question. Farhad is asking, biggest issue we have seen the past 40 odd days is the breakdown of supply chain management. Many suppliers and consumers, but there was no supply chain. How can technology help this?
I think here the problem, obviously I know the example Farhad is talking about. I think the problem was really twofold. I think it was not purely technology per se. I think it was also the whole lockdown and the supply chain in itself, where there were no people to deliver stuff. There was also the inherent security risks that came about. So obviously, if you don't have people or riders who can do last mile delivery, your entire supply chain is going to crash. Especially in e-commerce. So like we painfully found out, it was not how pretty the website was. It was about the last mile delivery, getting the actual product to the doorstep for the customer, which is where we struggled. I think
so true.
we struggled initially. I think most of the sites or the retailers struggled initially. And I think government realized that. There was also a demand for food and essential services rising from households because there was obviously no way of getting household essentials. And that led to all these policies around, at least, providing curfew passes and policies around essential services that ease that. But again, it is also to do with preparedness. I don't think we were prepared for something like this. The good companies prepared for COVID, the preparation for COVID of the companies that were digital savvy who thought through all of this started much before COVID. And those companies thrived. And the companies that were figuring out things, eventually figured certain things out, struggled in the initial phase of lockdown. I think that's probably how I see it.
Great. Thank you very much for that reply. Now, Silmi Ahmed. So he's asking a question around HR. He's saying that, in your opinion, how is traditional model companies going to handle the surplus of workforce as a result of forced digitization due to COVID-19? So how do you think the HR would be managed?
Yeah, so I think if you look at Sri Lanka per se, if you look at Sri Lanka per se, I think I can't think of many companies who had to let go of people because of digitization. I think what happened was they found efficiencies in the way they did things by using digitization, and they were able to do more things with less. So for an example, so I'll take a very simple example. If there were, in a logistics company, if there are 15 people to enter thousands of invoices a day, and as a result of automation or digitization, if that reduced to, let's say, 2 people entering 1,000 invoices a day, it's not like the other 13 was surplus. The other 13 could be redeployed to something else to help grow the company. And that's probably how most of these Sri Lankan companies have seen that. Obviously, given the pandemic, there will always be situations where people have lost their jobs. But at the same time, it's also important that anyone can lose our jobs. And I can say in some of the companies I represent, there has always been pay cuts, and that's no secret. It's also important that we reskill ourselves so we become still relevant, even if it's not in our own jobs, or that we have competencies on. Can we build competencies on other related areas so that we can still be employable in the future? And it's probably how we'll look at it. Surplus will always be there in this space. It's also the onus on us as employees at times to not be victimized by it, but look at what kind of skill sets can I acquire as a result of this period to really see how useful I can be. We've had almost 6 weeks of lockdown, if I'm not mistaken. 6 to 7 weeks of lockdown, maybe with the end of this week. So it's close to 2 months of lockdown. And if you're coming out of lockdown without acquiring a new skill set, or you've learned nothing in this whole process, then it's not a organization issue, it's an employee discipline issue.
Okay, great. So we try to work with our team to make sure that, again, it comes back to the mindset, right? How you focus on the mindset, how you can develop their mindset so that they adapt to the present situation. Now, Ashan De Silva, he's asking regarding online payment. So he's saying that people are skeptical to pay online. So any thoughts in that area?
Yeah, there was a lot of skepticism around online payments.
How to manage this skepticism?
I think it's a lot to do with education. And I think it's a lot to do with education. I think people inherently fear to make online payments. I think it's a lot to do with education. Even when we talk about digital in a post-COVID era, we've got to also understand that there is still a lot of people in this country who are not digital savvy. So there has to be a lot of education and capacity building around digital as a daily use in life. Good thing on digital payments is that I think this whole pandemic has forced people to get into digital payments. So I know electricity bill payments and all these payments didn't come through because of this whole situation. But you still don't have to go to a car gears or the electricity board to pay your electricity payments. You can still do that through certain apps today, most mobile banking apps today. So whilst the skepticism was there in a pre-COVID era, I think now, given that we've had a force in our own behavior because of this pandemic, things are probably going to rise into the future.
So it's going to be a forced change. Yeah. So which we are looking at. Okay, great. So Pradeep Athanayaka, he's asking how cautious one should become to averse any problem risk of digitization investment in this period. In case of majority of your people, clients fall back to their usual. So the same question, what you have answered earlier, that, okay, what if people don't follow the digitization? You invest on the digitization, and then of course, after a while, you see that people just lost interest. Do you think that's a possibility?
No, it is. It is. I think we have a reputation of forgetting fast, and I think that business will be. I don't think life will be normal for a long time. Even though there is probably going to be the lifting of curfew starting next week, I don't think life is going to be normal. I don't think organizations are asking employees to flock their officers and start working as normal. I don't think we will feel normal for some time. There is always this fear in mind, is the pandemic, is a virus completely gone? Could I still get it? There'll always be these inherent fears in us that will not help us live a normal life. We will still take security as a significantly important thing in our lives for us and as well as for our families. So if you don't embrace digital as a way forward strategy now, I don't know when you would. The question that organizations and leaders need to ask themselves is that if this happens again, what's your answer? If you don't have an answer, it's time to create your answer. And that's probably how you need to break it.
Wow, very nicely said. Yes, you don't have an answer. Probably this is the alarm, giving you to look for an answer. Brilliant. So, okay, I have a question. Now, just to be very simplified one, that what type of businesses must get onto online platform?
I think all businesses should be on online platforms. I can't right now think of a single business, who can't be online. There was this famous joke which was circulating in our Facebook feeds about, no matter who you know, you should always know a guy who owns a bar. Then a few minutes after that, I read there was a famous bar in UK who was offering happy hours as a service.
Okay.
Not happy endings, happy hours as a service, right? And what they were doing was during a certain period of time of day, let's say 5 to 7 in the evening, they'll have an excellent, delivery model where anybody could order a happy hour and have it delivered to their home. And if they happen to join a community together over a Zoom call or over other technology and start, sharing this happy hour, they'll probably get an additional discount in the next order that they place.
Okay.
So you imagine the creative use of digital, even by I think all brands need to look at all kinds of businesses need to look at going digital, and digital today is merely not setting up a website and putting information about your products and services. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more about what kind of experience can you offer consumers. The other bit is, can you also be a part of supply chains of other countries through digital? So for an example, if you're a manufacturer of handicraft, can you list all your handicraft products that you manufacture in marketplaces like the Alibaba or Amazon or eBay and all these places where you actually drive foreign income into the country? So you're now going to be part of other platforms, and that will probably make you in a part of a supply chain of other industries in other countries and across the world. So I'll probably say all sorts of businesses need to be online.
So when you're online, the connectivity is more. That's what you're saying. So that's why everybody should be so on top of your head. If you, I know you said all type of businesses should be online. Let's say if I want to ask you to say 5 businesses, which would be we can get immediate by getting online immediate return. I know there is no immediate return as such, but it will be the process will be faster. Transformation process will be faster. 5 businesses, if I ask you to name.
I think I spoke about telehealth. Then there is also connected with this, for online pharmacies. I know there is a few of them, but probably not enough to cater to the kind of demand that we saw during the lockdown period. We could place orders, but you're almost like the 2,000 person in the queue to actually receive medicine. So probably that's an area that you could potentially think of. Groceries, certain types of groceries, for an example, even a simple thing like dog food. As much as you care for your well-being, you probably care for the well-being of your pet as well. Services like that could be online as well. That's number 2. That's essentially talking about essential services for yourself and potentially even your pets as well. The others could be around very simple services like is there a way you could actually haircut at home by booking a haircut online, right? I still know people who probably didn't cut their hair for 2 months or 1 or 7 weeks because they didn't want to cut it. They didn't want to be bald, so they're just waiting for lockdown and hoping every day that the lockdown will be over. So services like that. Then I saw even things that we take for granted, our phone, chargers, screens that can break at any given time. Services like that emerged as well during this period where you could actually order and get it online, get it home, even during a curfew period. Even things like milk powder, especially for children and infants. Sites like that which probably know a lot more around that topic than a general supermarket or a grocery could potentially add a lot of value in this day and age. These are some things I could think of at the top of my head, but there's obviously a lot.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, what you're saying is that what day-to-day, practically what you require, those are the areas a person can focus on. And because getting it at home it's a problem right now. So if you solve that problem, because every problem is an opportunity. So that's by solving that problem, you're giving the service to the clients as well, and one of the way to do it is digital. Great, I do get it. And then I like the fact that you mentioned about hairdressing. So Hasri is working on it right now at the moment.
Great.
That. Okay, I like this question of what Ashwin has asked regarding regulatory bodies. So how are the regulators and the government authorities working on making public services fully fledged digital in the future, like license, inland revenue, registration? Any steps has been taken in the
so today,
body?
Yeah, no, certainly. I think I'm amazed with the government's focus around the adoption of digital or technology in the way government services run. I think even today you can actually get your revenue license, online without having to actually visit the RMB. Same things are probably going to continue for your license. There is also this concept of NIC that is going to come up, which can be used not only as an identity card, but essentially your whole services, your lifestyle around you can revolve around that card. So, so I think there is a lot of work being done. I think the regulatory bodies are also looking at, especially the central bank. Lanka Pay is doing a great job in terms of, commoditizing digital payments across the country. The TRC is doing a lot of work around many areas as well. I think the future is really bright for us. I think the way government is running, they're looking at various ways in which we can digitize government services, which will obviously drive a lot more efficiency in the way government provides services for citizens. So it's happening, and it's happening faster than I thought, actually.
Brilliant. Wow, that's very encouraging to know. Very encouraging. Thank you, Ashwin, for that question. Okay, our last question. We love working with SMEs. One of our main focus is to have a mental, how to psychologically help the SMEs, and scaling up their business. So a few tips on, for our SME viewers, right? So how digital, how they can take advantage of this digital transformation and build their business, scale up their business. How can they do that?
Yeah. I think for my advice for SMEs is to also reevaluate your competitor landscape or your competitive landscape, because the kind of competitors you had pre-COVID might be very different to the kind of competitors that you have post-COVID today. Start by looking at how has that landscape changed over the last 6 to 8 weeks, because it has changed. Secondly, I think be clear about what you offer, but also look at what are the new and innovative ways in which you can offer that same service. Look at the trends that are happening. So I'll give you a very simple example. I think the first COVID case was discovered on the 22nd of January. There was a study that was done on credit card payments. So what happened was, in that study, where it was about hundreds of thousands of consumers, you suddenly saw a massive growth, almost like disruptive growth of credit card spending on groceries and on sites like Amazon. Then you saw a massive decline on spending for travel as well as out-of-home entertainment, right? So look at these trends, look at the data points in your industries to actually guide your decisions around what you offer and what are the ways in which you can offer it. And perhaps even think of new offerings. So for an example, could there be new products or services related to you, which you can launch, which might be relevant in this era? So example, if you're in the medical profession, or if you're in the profession of health or medicine or pharmaceuticals, is there technology that we can bring to Sri Lanka which can do mass scale diagnostics? Think of that. If you're in technology, if you're a technology startup, what kind of technology is relevant today and tomorrow, given this era, which will aid remote working beyond the traditional technologies that we are already using? I think those are things you should look at. The third point is look at offering as much convenience as possible to your customer. I think we are now used to convenience. We're used to people getting us and delivering it to our homes. Look at convenience. Fourthly, look at ways and means of driving away manual, mundane processes, drive as much automation as possible. These are some key tips I could potentially give the SMEs right now.
Great. Okay, Imran, sorry, I just got a question from Kasuni. Would it be okay if I ask you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So it's in the area of, I like the fact of self-sufficiency. That's why I want to ask this question. So now what she's asking, that how the agricultural supply chain would change with the digital intervention and government's initiative of self-sufficiency. So what would be the agricultural space look like?
It's an interesting question. I know there's been a lot of homegrown farmers in the last 7 to 8 weeks that has emerged, growing stuff in their own backyards. I think at some point this will all merge together. In Sri Lanka, there is roughly about 400,000 farmers in the country. I'm just taking agriculture as an example. There is about 400,000 farmers in the country. There is also an amazing trend of home-based farmers. I wouldn't call them farmers. I'd probably call them people who actually grow things at home. And if you look at some of the marketplaces in Sri Lanka, some of these home-based market were actually putting stuff out in the marketplace to actually attract buyers towards it. This will eventually start merging together. You still need to have, if you grow to a certain scale, you still need to have good supply chain distribution mechanisms to be able to fulfill such services.
So there should be, there has to be a supply chain to manage this as well. The reason I like that question is that self-sufficiency part of it. So because
I think it's moving there. The question is, how much can you be self-sufficient is a question. I'm not sure whether you can be fully self-sufficient. Maybe you can, if you're a vegetarian and if you only eat vegetables, you could potentially grow all your vegetables in your backyard and do it. But will it grow to the demand that you have to cater at your place is a question. But then
Right.
what about the other stuff that you're self-sufficient on? For an example, one of the problems I had was detergent for my toilets. And where do you go find them from? You still need to rely on third party or external entities to be able to fulfill your needs fully. So you can be self-sufficient to a large extent, but there's still the dependency on what's out there as well.
Great. Okay, great. So, Imran, so just say yes or no. What I'm saying is that, so digital transformation is inevitable. And as we are speaking, it's happening right now and it's here to stay. Yes or no?
Absolutely. And my final piece of advice for everyone in the session is that don't get caught with all these buzzwords of these. I've learned so many buzzwords over the last few weeks. Digital transformation. I mean, that's been around, but most people don't know what digital transformation is. They just like to talk about it because it sounds very technical and cool. Digital disruption is another. Some people think is a negative thing. Then there's this whole thing around the new normal, the post-COVID era. Just forget about all that. Think about how has your business impacted. How has your business been impacted pre-COVID versus post-COVID? What do you need to do to be relevant in a post-COVID era? And how much of technology can you actually use to do that? If you have a problem today in your organization, think about how can technology help you solve that. Keep it extremely simple.
Great. Thank you very much, Imran, for your contribution. Thank you. And it has definitely, I learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has learned as well. And thank you for all your practical examples, what you have given. And that has definitely helped us to understand the digital space, how it's happening. I love the fact that you actually brought in using the buzzwords. That's one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation. Remember, we had a conversation that, okay, let's let the people know what is the real thing. Yeah, I understand there is uncertainty out there, but one of the way we can give ourselves uncertainties by focusing on the things what we have control over, and we have control over three things, which is our thoughts, conversation, and action that we take. Right. So your conversation
Absolutely.
with the audience, with us, has definitely given us that thought and that momentum. I'm sure we will create that momentum onwards in the future with this conversation. Thank you so much. And audience, thank you so much for being here. This is our third. No problem. You're welcome, Imran. Thank you. And audience, thank you very much for being with us. This is our third Real Talk with Shuvo. And next week, we are having a supply chain specialist from Bangladesh, Izazur Rahman, joining us. If you're into supply chain, if you want to know what are the changes happening in supply chain, please join us next Friday, 7:30 Sri Lanka time. Would love to invite all of you. Please come over, not to my place, over Zoom. We'll have this conversation. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with a thought. There's this entrepreneur. He said that the biggest part of our digital transformation is changing the way we think. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can have the most expensive gadget or most biggest investment on your digitization, but your human resource, your own mindset remains the old. There is no change on it. So what we require is the mindset change, mindset transformation. That is more important. That will lead to a digital transformation. With that, this is your host, Shuvo, signing off. Thank you, Imran. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, Shuvo. Thank you for the audience.
No problem.
See.